Welcome back to Champion News Talk Radio, brought to you by championnews.net. This is Carol Parisi. Today, our founder, Jack Roeser, and myself have Don Castella. Don Castella is running for Senate 30th District and principled conservative leadership with a 10-point plan, Don. So let's go over some of your points. You want to grow jobs. You want to grow Illinois jobs.
What I want to do is try and vote to help get the government out of the way of small businesses. Of the principal job creators in Illinois are the small businesses that make up the vast majority of all jobs in Illinois.
But how do you plan to do that when Illinois companies are leaving Illinois by droves?
We have to make Illinois more competitive. It has to be more competitive with Indiana, with Wisconsin, with Iowa, and all the other states surrounding it, and also competitive on an international basis. And that is not something we're going to improve overnight, but we have to set in motion the necessary legislative initiatives to get the government out of people's hair, essentially.
Do you think lawmakers have the political will? Do you think we're getting a new group of lawmakers if we get these good people elected, these principled conservatives elected, that will have the political will to do some of the cuts that are necessary and implement?
I think they will, and I can only speak for myself really, but I can tell you that I'm not here to make a career out of this. I'm here to effect change, and that's a necessary change. For too long, the state has been kicking the can down the road.
Yep.
It's been deferring payment of bills. We need to do the same kind of thing that a family would do when it was faced with economic challenges, and that's to tighten our belts, to rein in some of the the irresponsible and out of control spending, and to get our spending back in line with our revenues. Right now, they've found a unique way to borrow money from their suppliers, from the vendors that are supplying goods and services to the state. They simply don't pay them. We have a backlog of more than $8 billion of unpaid bills.
That's unconstitutional.
It certainly flies in the face of the spirit of the Constitution. Yes, it does.
Well, they're not supposed to spend money that they can't pay their bills. There is a law that says that.
Well, the rating agency, I think it was Moody's, that downgraded the bond rating of the state of Illinois. They said that. They said that the major problems have not been addressed, and it will be necessary for the state to address those problems before it can hope to get a better bond rating than it has.
Look at the pensions again. The pensions for the teachers were managed locally until 1995, when Madigan and the other cuckoos downstate started increasing their salaries so much that the pensions have gone to the moon. And they couldn't pay them at the local thing, and so they passed the debt on to the state. And Madigan and his merry band of spenders have completely busted the state entirely on the pension thing. They're $80 billion in the hole. Some economists would say that it's a dream that the returns on the pension funds would be only $80,000 in debt. With the way it's going, it's more like 170. So we've bankrupted the state with just the pensions for the teachers, and that's been done by their union is the worst enemy the teachers have got. We've got a lot of good teachers out there working in a badly managed system, but these teachers expect to get a pension that they are not going to get, whatever their expectations are. There's nothing in the law to give them a chance at a pension. It's just bankruptcy that faces them from what the union and Madigan and his bunch with. They took all of the money from the teachers, and the union, the IEA, has spent it on promoting the Democrats in the legislature and a few weak Republicans, and we should never elect a Republican that takes money from the union unless he takes it and says, thank you for the money, Mr. Teacher Union, And we take it in the same spirit as we take money from Al Capone to fix the church roof. Because the villains in this whole thing is the IEA. They have bankrupted the state.
Well, I recognize that they're the 800-pound gorilla in the room.
Yes, they are.
They were acting in their own self-interest. The problem is that the people they were negotiating with were their own hand-picked politicians, and so there really is no one representing the taxpayers, or very few people representing the taxpayers, and that really is the issue, that promises were made that cannot be delivered upon at this time.
What does pension reform look like to a Senator Don Castella?
Well, there is a plan on the table right now. It's certainly open to negotiation, essentially to replace these defined benefit pension plans with a defined contribution plan,
like a 401k,
or to offer people who are currently employed options on how they would structure their pension contributions.
Is this the Tom Cross bill? SB
512.
512.
Yes, and this is not a
Be-all,
done
end-all.
deal. It's a negotiating point that needs to be worked on.
Do you think that bill could be improved upon, or do you think it's a good start?
It's a good start. The question is how we would ever pass it. But if we finally get people to act like adults and recognize that the money simply isn't there, that sooner or later we're going to run into an insolvency.
You're a considerate man, and I'm kind of a bombastic myself over here. There's those crooks downstate, but you're a level-headed thing, and I think but I know how tough you are. To say a thing about you. This isn't just a stroke out of the blue that you're running for the Senate. I've known you before. You've worked and helped other people up in Lake County in trying to get better people elected and better government. You've been a quiet voice for improvement, but I know you well enough to know that you're a lot tougher than you look.
Well, I wasn't afraid to take on the Republican Party when I saw that it was doing things that were not entirely in line with our platform and with our beliefs and our principles.
Yeah, well, I'm more bombastic. The rascals have been destroying the Union.
We want the rascals to destroy the Union.
It's true, and the thing I think that we need to do better is to tailor our message so that it's something that people can identify with.
And what
I think
is that?
too often Republicans come off as a bunch of dry accountant types who don't have a message that people can relate to. Their eyes glaze over very quickly when we start talking about all these numbers and projections and things like that. But when you put it in concrete terms, that people are hurting, and they are hurting in this state, because there aren't enough jobs. And the reason there aren't enough jobs is because we've chased the employers out of the state. They've found greener pastures elsewhere. Whether we like it or not, we are in a competitive situation in Illinois with other states and other countries. And we will have to reform our government, or we will continue down the path that we've been on. Between 1995 and 2010, more than 866,000 people left Illinois. Mm-hmm. And Illinois lost population to 42 of the 50 states. Wow. The only states that it gained population from were other blue states similar to Illinois that also have fiscal problems and can't
what
seem
has really
to get their act
happened
together.
is the Democrats have been in charge of most of this for a long, long time, entirely in control of Chicago for eons. And with Madigan downstate, even when the Republicans were there in the distant past, he pretty much ran it.
For decades.
Yes. And so what's happened is these guys ran up a big debt, and sensible businessmen that have left the state. They don't want to pay the debt these rascals have run up. So the population that could be paying it off is the one that could move away. And we're stuck with a lot of people that are going to be a dependence instead of clearing up the debt.
But I think it's a conscious decision that was made. I recall one of the people who ran for governor in 2010, Dan Proft, had a favorite saying, not that Illinois was broken, but that it was fixed. And it was fixed in a way where, exactly what they wanted to happen was happening.
The fix is in. Well, you know what? We are going to have solutions to Illinois' problems with Don Castella when we come back